When we choose to begin the spiritual practice of astrological magic, it's important for us to decide, before we do anything, what is it that we're hoping to accomplish, or at least begin playing around with this idea. One of the first things I learned in my practice of the Buddha Dharma with my Guru Prajwal, he told us to think about our dedication and motivation for the practice. No matter what practice we're doing, whether it's a ritual, whether it's meditation, or the recitation of mantra, we need to be clear what our dedication and motivation is. For a Buddhist practitioner, this is always for the benefit of all sentient beings. This is always for others as the main focus. And that reflects in my own personal practice of astrological magic. However, for others, this isn't necessarily the case. And so in Module 1 of my mentorship, Catching Starlight, we spend our first session really challenging ourselves and getting some honest clarity in terms of what is it that we're hoping to accomplish. How do we think engaging with these ancient practices are going to be relevant to our lives, relevant in a modern context? Are we doing it because we have an inkling that there is something about these ancient ways of thought, these ancient spiritual technologies that can help usher in some meaning that we currently don't have in our lives? Or are we interested in material results, wealth, money, power, influence? I believe it's very important for us to be quite clear with ourselves what these are, so we at least know where we stand in the practice of this magic. Famous Italian philosopher and occultist Giordano Bruno discusses the various ways in which spirits and occult symbols influence our lives. How do they do this? They do this by augmenting our thoughts, our ideas, our beliefs, and our desires. And because of this, I think it's highly important for us to understand and get clarity on what our own expectations and desires are before we start doing sets of practices that intend to crack a hole into reality and begin monumentally shifting the way that we experience life. Or else we may find ourselves drifting away from our own ideas and beliefs about what we want our lives to look like. And too often than not, I have seen others a bit disappointed, following the streams and desires of something else that they deem not quite exactly what they want, and not quite exactly what they think is a true expression of the limited time that they have here in this world. And that really isn't a requirement to be performing this kind of magic or anything that we do. Sometimes we do find ourselves in situations that have seemed to take on a life of their own. I think these guys can attest to that. But hopefully we want these things to be of greater benefit. In my perspective, hopefully we, along with other beings, get to benefit from the unpredictable currents and karmas our magic may incur.